on the formula of the moon, de formula lunae. Thus then concerning operations of the Tao with the Yang and the Yin, is there enough? For thine own art of beauty shall divine for thee and devise new heavens. But in all these is the formula of the serpent with the head of the lion, and all his magic is wrought by the radiance and creative force thereof. And this force leapeth continually from plane to plane, and breaketh forth from his bonds, so that constraint is labor. Now then learn that the yin hath also a formula of force, and the nature of the yin is to be still, and to encircle of limit, and it is as a mirror, reflecting diverse images without change in its own kind. So then it seeketh never to overlap the barriers of its plane. For this reason it is well to use it in operations of a very definite and restricted type. But although it be inert, yet it is most subject to change. For its number is 81, which is the moon, and these are Alim, the gods elemental before each descending in their myths made them creative. So then thou mayst use constantly this formula to rearrange things in their own planes, and this is a most pragmatic consideration.
On the taking of the eagle, the Aquilae Semenda.
Taking this work, the eagle all undefiled and virginal for thy sacrament, and thy technique is the magic of water, so that thine act is of nourishment and not of generation. Therefore the prime use of this art is to build up thine own nature. But if thou hast skill to control the mood of the eagle, then mayst thou work many an admirable effect upon thy environment. Thou knowest how great is the fame of witch woman, old and without man, to cause events. Although he create nothing, it is the straightness of the channel which giveth force to the stream. Beware, O my son, lest thou clinch overmuch to this mode of magic, for it is lesser than that other. And if thou neglect that other, then is thy danger fearful and imminent, for it is the edge of the abyss of Corunson, where are the lonely towers of the Black Brothers. Also the formulation of the object in the eagle is by a species of intoxication, so that his nature is of dream and delirium. And thus there may be illusions. For this cause I deem it not wholly unwise if thou use this way of magic chiefly as a cordial, that is for the fortifying of thine own nature.
On the chemical agents according to the 4 elements, De Medicini Secundum Quator Elementa. Concerning the use of chemical agents, and be mindful that thou abuse them not, learn that the sacrament is self-related to the spirit, and the 4 elements balanced thereunder in its perfection. So also Thylion himself hath a 4-fold menstruum, serpents. Now to fire belong cocaine, which fortifieth the will, loosing him from bodily fatigue, morphine, which purifieth the mind, making the thought safe and slow and single, heroin, which partaketh as it seemeth of the nature of these twine aforesaid, albeit in degree less notable than either of them, and alcohol, which is food, that is, fuel for the whole man. To water attribute hashish and mescal, for they make images, and they open the hidden springs of pleasure and of beauty. Morphine for its ease hath also ethyl oxide, for it is as a sword, dividing asunder every part of thee, making easy the way of analysis, that thou comest to learn thyself of what elements thou art compact. Lastly, of the nature of earth are the direct hypnotic, which operate by repose, and restores thy strength by laying thee as a child in the arms of the great mother. I say rather of her material and physiological vice-regent.
Of the value of experience in this art, de virtute experientia in hoc arte. Not sleep, not rest, not contentment are of the will of the hero, but these things he had it, and consented to enjoy them only with shame of his weak nature. But he will analyze himself without pity, and he will do all things soever that may free and fortify his mind and will. Know that the technique of the right use of this magic with poisons is subtle, and since the nature of every man differeth from that of his fellow, There entereth idiosyncrasy, and thine experience shall be thy master in this art. Heed also this word following. The right use of these agents is to gain a knowledge preliminary of thine own powers and of high states, so that thou goest not altogether blindly and without aim in thy quest, ignorant of the ways of thine own inner being. Also, thou must work always for a definite end, never for pleasure or for relaxation, except thou wilt, as a good knight is sworn to do. And thou, being hero and magician, art in peril of abusing the fiery agents only, not those of earth, air, or water, because these do really work with thee in purity, making thee holy what thou wouldst be, an engine indefatigable, a mind clear, calm, and concentrated, and a heart fierce aglow.
On the true sacrament, de sacramento vero, but in the sacrament of the gnosis, which is of the spirit, is there not hurtful, for its elements are not only food, but a true incarnation and quiescence of life, love, and liberty, and its manifestation, thy lion, is consecrated by pure light of ecstasy. Also, as this is the strongest, so also it is the most sensitive of all things soever, and both proper and ready to take impressive will, not as a seal passively, but with true recreation in a microcosm thereof, and this is a God alive and puissant to create, and he is a word of magic wherein thou mayest read thyself with all thine history and all thy possibility. Also, as to thine eagle, is not this chosen by nature herself by her way of attraction, without which harmony, aesthetic and magnetic, thy lion is silent and inert, even as Achilles before his rage in his tent. Now also therefore I charge thee, O my son, to partake constantly of this sacrament, for it is proper to all virtue, and as thou dost learn to use it in perfection, thou wilt surpass all other modes of magic. Yea, in good sooth, no herb or potion is like unto this, supreme in every case, for it is the true stone of the philosophers, and the elixir of medicine of all things, the universal tincture, or the menstruum of thine own will.
On directing disciples, de discipulis regendis. I will have thee to know, moreover, my dear son, the right art of conduct with them whom I shall give thee for initiation, and the rule thereof is one rule. Do that thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. See thou constantly to it that this be not broken, especially in the section thereof, if I dare say so, which readeth, mind thine own business. This is of application equally to all. And the most dangerous man or woman, as has occurred, or I err, is the busybody. Oh, how ashamed are we and moved to indignation, seeing the sins and follies of our neighbors. Of all the occasions of this grievance, the most common is the desire of sex unsatisfied. And thou knowest already, even in thy young experience, how in that delirium the wheel of the whole universe appeareth of no account. Do thou wean thy babes from that simplicity, and instill the sense of true proportion. For verily this is a way of madness, love, unless it be under will, and the cure of his madness is not so good as its prevention, so that thou shouldest be beforehand with these children, shewing them the right importance of love, how it should be a sacred right, exalted above personality, and a fire to enlighten and serve man, not to devour him.
On certain diseases of disciples, de quibusdum morbus disciplorum. And thus, if any babe of thine be ill at ease, look closely first, whether this love be not the root of his distemper. Watch also idleness, for whoso presseth eagerly forward in will, heedeth little the affairs of his fellows. O my son, if every man doth his own will, there is no more to say. But the busybody nor mindeth his own business, nor leaveth others to mind theirs. Be thou instant, therefore, with such an one, to cure him by enlightening his will, and speeding him therein. Remember also, that if one speaketh ill of another, the fault is first of all in himself, for we know not but that which is within us. Did not the great witch-finder end by confessing that he also was a sorcerer? We become that which obsesseth us, either through extreme hate or extreme love. Knowest thou not how the one is a symbol of the other? For this reason, since love is the formula of life, we are under bond to assimilate, in the end, that which we fear or hate. So then we shall be wise to mold all things within ourselves in quietness and modulation. But above all, must we use all to our own end, adapting the adroitness, even our weakness, to the work.
On watching for faults in the house. De culpis dome petendis. Therefore watch heedfully the fault of another, that thou mayest correct it in thyself. For if it were not in thee, thou couldst not perceive it or understand it. Lo, in thine ecstasy of love, thou callest upon the universe to bear witness that this end alone was it created. It is unthinkable that thou shouldest love another, and incomprehensible that any man should grieve. Yet ere the moon change her quarter, thou art free of thy lunes, and lovest another, and may it be grievous in thyself, while he that amazed thee hath joined the company of the rejoicing. Watch then, and heed thyself, and pay no heed to thy fellows, in so far as they impede thee not. And let this be the rule, for every will is pure and every orbit free, but error bringeth confusion. See therefore that none leave his path, lest he foul that of his brother, and remember also that with speed cometh ease of control. Let each man therefore urge briskly his chariot in a right line towards the center, for two radi cannot cross. And beware most of this, love, because it lieth so close to the will that dis-ease thereof easily imparteth his error to the whole way of the magician.
On the body that is the shadow of man. Concerning the Aeon, O my son, learn that the sun and his vice-regent are in all aeons of necessity, father, center, creator, each in his sphere of operation. But the formula of the past Aeon was of the dying god, and was based upon ignorance. For men thought that the sun died and was reborn, alike in the day and in the year. And so also was the mystery of man. Now already are we well assured by science how the death of the sun is in truth but the shifting of a shadow. And in this Aeon, O my son, I lift up my voice, and I make prophecy. So shall it be proven as to death. For the body of man is but his shadow. It cometh and goeth, even as the tides of ocean. And he only is in darkness who is hidden by the shadow from the light of his true self. Now therefore understand thou the formula of Horus, the lion god, the child crowned and conquering that cometh forth in force and fire. For thy changes are not phases of thee, but of the phantoms which thou mistakest for thyself.
On Sirens, de Serenas, concerning the love of women, O my son, it is written in the book of the law that all is freedom, if it be done unto Our Lady Nuit. Yet also there is this consideration, that for every parsival there is a kundry. Thou mayest eat 1,000 fruits of the garden, but there is one tree whose name for thee is poison. In every great initiation is an ordeal, wherein appeareth a siren or vampire appointed to destroy the candidate. I have myself witnessed the blasting of not less than 10 of my own flowers that I tended when I was Nemo, and that although I saw the cankerworm and knew it, and gave urgent warning, now then consider deeply in thyself if I were rightly governed in this action according to the Tao. For we that are magicians work without fear or haste, being omnipotent in eternity. And each star must go his way, And who am I that I should save this people? Wilt thou smite me, as thou smotest the Egyptian yesterday? Yea, although mine were the might to save these 10, I reached not forth mine arm against iniquity. I spake, and I was silent, and that which was appointed came to pass. As it is written, the pregnant goddess hath let down her burden upon the earth.
Thelema 2.